Hi Jack, how are you?
What's going on, Louie? Thanks so much for doing this, man.
Of course, thanks for having me.
So how busy are you? Like, because you just wrapped up a tour, right?
Yeah, so we just wrapped up this tour. Honestly, not that busy at the moment. I kind of been taking a few days to chill and decompress, definitely. It's been yeah, tour was an incredible experience. It was definitely a lot, so I need to take a little like a couple days definitely to chill.
Well, I won't take too much of your time, man. Maybe like
Oh,
20,
you're
30
fine.
minutes. Again, like if
Of
you're
course.
busy, I get it. This is your time off.
Of
But kind of
course.
just want to
Thank you. You're
pick your
fine.
brain about your career and everything. So what are you doing right now since you've been off? Like, what do you do during your free time? What are you doing to decompress right
I've been getting back to my workout routine. I try to work out every day. Lately, I do like all upper body one day and then just abs and running the next day and try to keep up with that every day. And I've been drinking super greens lately, trying to trying to get like the right amount of greens in and just trying to kind of keep my diet good because just I mean it all kind of helps the mental side of your health as well. So and as the physical. Um, so that's kind of what I've been doing. I've been chilling. I've been writing a bit. I've been getting ready for figuring out what the cover of my next release is going to be. Like the cover artwork, because there's a song that we're called London, which we're planning to be putting out, I think around Black Friday, but it not isn't definitely set yet. But around like Thanksgiving time, so I'm trying to rush to figure that out.
I mean, that's interesting. So, like, you're actually also kind of like on that creative side, kind of creating your own artwork. I mean, obviously, creativity, music, writing in general, kind of goes hand in hand. Uh, how,
Sometimes.
yeah, sometimes I guess. Do you typically, I mean, not write, but like draw cover artwork and stuff like that for your own stuff?
Honestly, I would never allow a drawing of mine to be.
Yeah, as
I'm
long as
so
it's touched
bad.
up. Yeah.
But we've been kind of just going through some photo shoot pictures and kind of figuring out like type fonts and kind of what we want the idea to be, whether we want to do something a bit more creative, a bit more artistic, or just kind of go with that singer-songwriter, just a portrait, just a picture and some words. Um, so yeah, I mean, honestly, it's difficult at the moment because at some point, hopefully, knock on wood, when we have a label, I won't have as much say in the artwork stuff because it can be such a hard field to navigate, especially because that obviously isn't my forte, I would say, in any way, shape, or form. But then kind of when I'm involved in it, the process becomes really hard. It's like, oh, I don't like this, but I like that, but and it's a long process to figure out. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm
I
excited to not have that.
So you mentioned that you're getting back into kind of a workout regimen. Like how important is that for you? Because I know for me personally, like you said, like the whole mental aspect of it,
Yeah.
being in I want to say like the best shape of your life, but being in good shape, it definitely like helps. Because you traveling the states over the past few months, like you probably didn't have much time to hit the gym, like if at all.
Yeah.
Were you able to do anything when you were on tour in that sense?
Um, well, it's great that you are too. Like, I think
Yeah.
it really is so important for everyone's like mental health. I wasn't. It was late night McDonald's on the road.
Yeah.
So I've been kind of just like dying to get back here to get back home to kind of just keep up and get back into the routine that I'd started for the last 2 months before I left, before I got on the road. I brought like my yoga mat to work out on while we were like on the road, but I just could not find the time. It was just start stop every day, just keep driving, and yeah.
So is this your first like big like you touring the states, stopping in each city? Like, was this like the first time you were able to like kind of dissect that and meet a bunch of different people from a bunch of different places?
Yeah, it was the first time I've ever experienced anything like that.
Yeah.
It was so, I don't know, it was just such a full-on experience, and every day it really did remind me how lucky I am that I can do this, and that I have people that like want to actually come out in the cold to a Walmart parking lot and listen to me play some songs, which is just unbelievable. And each time was so different because there were some performances had 2 people show up, and then some performances had 60 people. In Nashville, I think it may have been like 75 or to 100 people. I don't know, but we tried to count, but we ended up losing count. But it was just, it was something new and different and interesting every single stop, because we were just playing these parking lot shows and just in front of people's houses. So it was such an amazing experience. It was definitely full on. It was
Yeah.
very tiring at times. But that's the gig, and that's, I can't wait until we can actually, till venues are opened up and we can actually play in venues, and like that's just going to be something. And with the full band, like I kept making this joke because there were always these instrumental breaks in some of the backing tracks, because sometimes I played the keyboard, sometimes I played a little guitar. I'm trying to teach myself at the moment, but there were a lot of the time we did backing tracks because it was just easier, with the start and stop. To set up the keyboard in a Walmart parking lot and then go straight off again would have been too much. But so there were all these instrumental breaks, and I would just be like, I promise I'm going to bring the band next time. Like, but it was, yeah, I mean, it was amazing. It was such a life-changing experience, to be honest.
I mean, and you said it too, like given everything going on with the pandemic, like venues aren't open, so you kind of had to pull an audible, kind of adapt to a situation. Like it was a
Yeah.
unique setup for you. Did you like? Obviously, you enjoyed it. Were there any aspects of it that were kind of just like insanely difficult? Obviously, living on the road, playing in front of you, like you said, 60, 70 people in parking lots. Like, were there definitely like some growing pains in that sense?
I think the growing pains may have been just, I think I really pushed my voice more than I ever have before. Um, I used to struggle to sing through. I mean, like to sing through like a set of like a 90-minute set, but like that we finally kind of did that multiple times on this tour, which completely kind of set new limits and boundaries in terms of how I felt that my vocals could hold up. Because I after basically during the live shows of Idol, I didn't realize, but I had mono. I
Oh,
didn't realize until after the show. A couple weeks after, I ended up getting blood work done, and they said you've had mono for the last like two and a half months. Because I was so sick during the show, and I was talking. I would be on with the vocal coaches talking about it, and like we just couldn't figure out why I was so sick. So I ended up having like muscular damage in my throat for like 2 months after the show, and I couldn't really sing, because I was just in pain every day. And then so this was the first time I've really used my voice since then. Apart from apart from some like vocal recording sessions. So it was just it was like, that was probably the biggest growing pain in terms of just, but it was more like a growth, not necessarily a pain. And then I think just sleeping in a tiny, tiny camper with my manager, his 2 little boys, and his wife, which was amazing. I love them and their family, but that was like getting used to that. Kind of not really having time to myself, I think, was something that kind of was a bit of a growing pain. But that's life on the road sometimes, and that's kind of, I'm gonna embrace it.
and yeah, I mean, geez, like everything that's happened to you this year with Idol, making it as far as you did, and then transpiring into this. How much of an input was like were your managers involved with this whole tour process? Was it your idea? Was it kind of a mix? Like, who ultimately decided to pull the trigger on what you just did and what you just got off tour from?
I wish I could take all the credit, but I can't take any of it. It was all my manager's idea. So him and his family were supposed to be doing a family road trip vacation. And and then he basically came up with the idea, like, why don't you join us, Louis? And I think the real MVP award goes to his wife, Gina, who put up with me crashing their family vacation to make it into a Louis night tour. But that was it was all Cliff's idea, really. And we then talked about it. He kind of just invited me to go on the road with them.
Yeah.
And then we were thinking, oh, maybe we'll like stop and like maybe just busk a few times here and there. And then we kept talking about it. And then it just grew into this idea, like, why don't we just make this a full tour and just set up all these shows? I remember I posted a map of the United States with kind of our initial road plan like mapped out. And I said, like, let us know what cities you want us to go to. And I was so surprised. It was like I got the most comments I've ever, like, I think I've ever gotten. And I was so surprised that all these people had been, like, were commenting, like, where they lived. And then I went into Excel and I made an Excel spreadsheet of every single username and every single city. And it was like Amelia _ like Kiss _ 1 2 3. And it was like, I think I did it. I stayed up one night till like 5 a.m. doing it, and just finishing this Excel sheet, and then with the city that they were from, and then I basically gave that to Cliff, and him and his intern, they kind of just mapped out all the stops, and that's kind of how the whole thing happened.
Wow. So it's your first time touring the States. What was your favorite city? Like, who were some of your favorite people that you got to meet along the way?
I don't know, really. Every city was such a different experience that I really like couldn't say like what was my favorite, but I think I can point out like some moments that I think were just completely like just incredible. I think Fort Wayne, Indiana, Indiana, that was like the people there. I mean, the people everywhere were just so lovely, but then the people there, especially, I remember they kind of like, I wasn't expecting anyone to bring me anything, you know, but like people brought me some like local donuts from like the local shop there in Fort Wayne. It was like that kind of was special to Fort Wayne, and like just these like local popcorn that had been grown there. Like I thought that was just so cool, and they were so sweet. I think the best moment, honestly, for me would be this girl Ava Noel. I believe that's her name. Her Instagram is Ava Noel Music, and I remember we showed up to her house because we did a few house stops on the first leg of the tour. The first week we did house stops every day, and we basically pulled up to her house. We were setting up the PA. I basically just said like, oh, like, what song would you like me to sing? Excuse me. And then she basically, when she asked, oh, like, could I sing with you and like play the guitar? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like that. I was just so caught off by it. And then she brought out her guitar. She plugged her guitar into the PA, and I think she's what, like 16 years old. And she was from Indiana as well. And like her little sister and her mom came out, and then she asked to sing Change with me, my song Change. And she pulled up like the chord tabs on her phone to Change, which I didn't even know existed. I didn't know they were like that's done, and which was just like weird to me in itself, and then like just surreal. And then she had her sister holding up the chord chart for her in front of her, and then she played Change, and I sang along with her. And I'd never heard it in that way before. The way that she was interpreting like my music and the way she was finger picking it on the guitar, I just never heard it in that way. And then she was singing along with me, and she had a beautiful voice. And I was kept looking over at my manager. Like I had goosebumps and chills the entire time. It was the most incredible experience.
I mean, isn't that amazing? Like musicians approach other musicians, and for the most part, everybody's just like, "Yeah, let's jam, let's play." Like I have a
Yeah.
brother, my brother's a musician. He'll
Oh,
play at
awesome.
Central Park in New York all the time, and people will just
Sick.
walk up to him and they'll just whatever it is. Like he's a big like Dave
That's so
Matthews
sick.
guy, and they just like start jamming like it's nothing. Like it's such a unique culture. I feel like music.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't blessed with that. I'm more of like on the journalism side, but.
That's incredible too, though.
I mean, just watching how things evolve and how the music industry is. Who were some of your inspirations growing up in music? How many different types of genres did you listen to? Who was like one of your biggest inspirations to say that's what I want to do when I grow up?
I think I don't know. There are so many different stages. So kind of growing up, I listened to Queen mostly. Queen was like when like that was like Freddie Mercury. I was just so obsessed with Queen. I had my mom take me to my mom and dad take me to We Will Rock You in London at the in the West End, which is like Broadway in England. Because they had a theater show, and I like dressed up in like a suit, and I was like apparently I don't really remember, but apparently I was standing on the seat the entire time, just like in awe. I grew up listening to so much Queen, grew up listening to a lot of Coldplay. Chris Martin is one of my biggest idols, just for who he is. And I mean, he's such a real down-to-earth guy, but his songs, and I mean, his songs have always just spoken to me a lot. And then I grew up listening to a lot of kind of Oasis, definitely my dad, we couldn't get in the car without my dad playing, Live Forever.
Yeah.
And then kind of growing up more, I fell in love with Ed Sheeran, Amy Winehouse. I grew up listening to a lot. I was a big Amy Winehouse fan. Now it's more kind of John Bellion, who's a New York producer, singer-songwriter, rapper. He's just multi-talented he's just absurdly talented. Lewis Capaldi is probably one of my biggest at the moment, and then Sam Fender as well. Sam Fender is I'm not sure if you've heard of him, but he's an English artist from I think from the north of England in Newcastle, and he's got such a it's basically kind of like alternative rock, but there's just so much like youthful angst in his voice that just like I just find so freeing. And like that's kind of I'm exploring my sound now, like my new sound with all these new artists that I've been listening to. So I've definitely been riding this wave of inspiration over the last kind of year and a half since I found like Lewis Capaldi and Sam Fender.
Right. And with those guys, like you just said, and of course you grew up in Philly, right? So how much of that kind of culminates into what you do? Like obviously some of the experience you've had kind of inspired some of the music that you've written, but all in all, like with experiences, being inspired by some of these guys that you just mentioned, how much of that culminates in the type of music that you play?
I think so. I mean, I grew up, I moved to Philly when I was 11.
Okay.
From London and Brighton in England. And then, so I think, sorry, what was the question again? My bad.
You just
I'm too ADD.
like all the experiences you had to this point, be like that obviously will inspire some of the new stuff that you've written. And at the same time, like you mentioned, the musicians that you've been inspired by, like has that all culminated into the type of music that you play today? Because like again, like you mentioned, like at the beginning,
absolutely,
the Queens of the world, now you're talking about the Ed Sheerans of the world. As you grow up, like all these different types of genres, all these different types of ideas and creativity kind of morphing into the type of music that you play.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I'm so lucky and fortunate that I have the outlet of songwriting. I'm so fortunate that I'm able to do that because writing for me is so therapeutic. I sit down at the piano or the guitar, and inevitably at first they all kind of sound like sad love song ballads. But it just helps me. I write about all of my experiences, everything that I deal with love and loss and relationships, with family and friends and girlfriends. I write about everything that's kind of that I live through, and that's it helps me process everything that I live through, being able to write about it, which I'm just so fortunate enough to have. And I think, especially in terms of the artists that I've been listening to a lot, what I'm always drawn to, what music has helped me get through, like in life, music, obviously, like I'm going to have upbeat songs and like I'm going to always write upbeat songs and kind of have happy songs. But for me, what really gets me always, what has kind of helped me grow through tough times, has been kind of like sad songs, it kind of, so I try to, with my writing, I try to just be real as I can, is really kind of the parameters that I kind of try to stick to, is just be real and honest. Because if I'm kind of doing that, and if I'm being vulnerable with how I'm feeling, hopefully then that's something that's going to really resonate with someone else. And yeah, that's kind of my mentality.
Yeah, and not only that, resonating with someone else, like you writing and singing and expressing something that's real, like it's going to come out as authentic as it possibly can be. Because that was your Idol audition, right? It was the song
yeah.
Your friend Russell, who unfortunately passed away.
Yeah.
What's that whole situation like for you, singing that song in front of celebrity wing judges for a show, again, American Idol? I don't know how much you watched it growing up. I was familiar with it growing up. And then, of course, this whole season was something that we've never seen before because of the pandemic and everything in COVID-19. Yeah. But for you doing that, singing about your friend, and at the same time that culminating in you getting that golden ticket, going to Hollywood, all that good stuff, what was that like for you, and how were you able to comprehend that in the moment?
Well, I didn't. I did not comprehend it in the moment. I was so confused with everything going on. Change was such a deep song to me, and it was so. At first, I wasn't sure if Sorry, I'll try to. I end up rambling so much. I'm trying to figure out my points. So I basically, Change, it was being able to kind of sing Change. At first I wasn't sure if I was going to go on the show, because I'd spent so much time. I graduated from high school, and I was spending time writing and recording my EP and putting my backing band together, to then start playing shows up and down the East Coast. And I was playing open mic nights and whatnot. And I was really focusing on trying to grow as a singer-songwriter. And so I was really anxious about going on to American Idol to sing covers. And then when I found out that I could sing Change, everything changed for me. It was a once in a lifetime opportunity that I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I didn't do that. It just spreading that message of hope for other people out there suffering, because so many people suffer, especially, even worse this year. It's suicide rates and overdose rates have gone up drastically since COVID, because everyone's so isolated. So I think just getting that message out was so important to me, and also being able to play my original music to really kind of help launch my career as a singer-songwriter was just a once in a lifetime opportunity. So that's kind of singing Change. Seeing it resonate with the judges was just so surreal. Lionel Richie, who I grew up listening to with his CDs, were all on my granddad's CD player growing up, and my whole family loves him. Whose family doesn't love Lionel Richie? So hearing feedback from him, that's probably the most important feedback I felt that I'd gotten from the entire show, because he said he really critiqued me with my songwriting, and kind of said that he liked kind of like my hooks where they were, and just being able to hear that from one of the greatest songwriters of all time. I think he had top 10 hits every year for a decade. I'm gonna be messing that up, but I think it might even be more than that. Just hearing that was so validating and surreal. I didn't know what was going on. I pretty much blacked out of the entire audition. I didn't think it was real. I thought that they were like, it was all fake and that they weren't actually saying those things to me. Like, it was the most strangest thing. And then I like got out of it and I like started processing what had just happened. So it was, I mean, yeah, that's a long-winded version of what you asked me.
So what's that whole experience like day one, getting there? Was it, so the whole situation, did they call you? Did you audition voluntarily? And what was that whole day one like, getting to sing your own song Change, that obviously means so much to you, in front of three, again, celebrity musicians that all just thought you kicked ass in the end?
That day was, so basically we had gone through two Skype auditions for the producers.
Oh, wow.
And then most people do, it's either kind of you do Skype auditions or you do the open calls and you show up to the open calls. But they basically, a casting producer reached out to me called Shay Wilbur. She reached out to me on Instagram.
Okay.
And like in towards the end of September. And at first I didn't think it was real. I was like, why American? It was asking if I wanted to audition, and I was like, why would American Idol be reaching out to me on Instagram? Like,
Yeah.
so I basically gave it to my manager, and I asked him to kind of suss it out. And then he contacted Shay, who is now one of our really close friends. She's like a bit of like an older sister to me. After everything that like she kind of helped me go through the idol process and the idol journey. She was kind of alongside me the whole time. And that's kind of, we started talking to her, and then I did a few Skype auditions. And then October, it was actually the anniversary of it was the 1 year anniversary of my live judges audition in Washington, I think 2 weeks ago now, while we were on the road.
Yeah.
And I forget what the date was, but then we basically ended up driving down to Washington. And then early that morning, about 5 a.m., we got to the hotel, which it was at the auditions were being held at the Wharf in DC. And yeah, it was a very, very long day. And it was incredibly nerve-wracking. I actually went and then auditioned again in person for the executive producers. They were set up in a little hotel room, literally in a hotel room. Like Patrick, the supervising producer, who's just amazing. I at first I was so scared of him because he's kind of this, like, he's got to organize hundreds and hundreds of people. He's got to be kind of loud and a little bit scary at first because he's like, he needs to get everyone's attention. And he was like, he led us all up to, he got us in a small group and led us up to into the hotel, to then perform for the executive producers in a tiny little hotel room, with a keyboard in it. And then we did that. And then we went to, and then they kind of let us know if we were going to go and perform for the judges that day. And then I luckily got through, and then we just went down and we waited for like all day until it was my turn to go. And it was just, the whole day, it was just so surreal. I was absolutely knackered. I was exhausted by the end of it. And it was just, I don't know, just kind of processing what had happened took me a while. I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. And that was kind of each step of the entire like idol journey itself. I just couldn't believe it. Every single round, I was certain I was going out. Like, and that's kind of, we tried to set expectations. Like my manager said to me, just step by step, and just each round by each round, we can only try to do our best, and see what happens. So that's, I still don't know how I managed to get to the top 7. And I'm so grateful for that experience of what everyone supported me through, and then also Idol. for the experience that they gave me. It's changed my life completely forever. So I'm just so grateful.
How approachable was Katie, Luke, and Lionel? Like you said, Lionel Richie helped you out, critiqued you, gave you advice. Because again, at the same time, like it's a great opportunity, a great experience for you. But again, like it's a business, it's American Idol, it's national
Yeah.
television. How approachable were they behind the scenes when it came to critiquing your stuff?
They were definitely approachable. I mean, we didn't really spend any time with them off camera,
Right.
because they're not like legally, contractually, they're not
Right.
really allowed to kind of spend and like talk to you while it's off camera because it could be seen as favoritism.
Right.
Um, so legally they can't, but they were. I mean, I remember like in Hawaii, like I bumped into Katy Perry, like I bumped into Katy. Like we'd both gone to the bathroom at the same time, and like she gave me a hug and was like talking in an English accent. And they were all lovely. They really are. Like Luke is so funny. He's a really good guy. Lionel was so wise with all of his experience that he's had in the industry, and he's just always was in Hollywood Week. He was always trying to kind of give these wise pep talks to everyone to kind of inspire them. And Katy was lovely. Katy honestly was a bit hot and cold to me throughout the journey, which was a little confusing at times. But I mean, she's lovely too. Like they're really good people, and they do really want the best for all the contestants, which I think was just really kind of nice to know. I think in the day of the audition, I was petrified of them all.
Right.
Obviously, as soon as I walked in, Katy, I'd not even looked up at them yet, and I just opened the door, and I was so nervous. I was supposed to hold the door for a cameraman to walk in behind me. And they told me to hold the door, and I just completely forgot to, and the door slammed in this camera guy's face. I felt so bad. He's a good dude, but they but Katy starts screaming in an English accent at me. Before I've even looked up at her, she's like, "Hello, governor!" Like, and I'm like, haha, like I'm literally just shaking, and I'm like, "That's a good accent," like, and she's like, "No, it's not," and I'm like, "Oh, you're right." Like, I didn't know what to do with myself. And I think, yeah, it's so because like so many people said to me, "Oh, you look so calm in your audition."
Yeah.
And I didn't think that I did, but I think people maybe saw it that way because I just like after Katy kind of did, like they edited that out of Katy kind of talking in an English accent to me as soon as I walked in. And I think that just got my nerves out because that was the most excruciating thing ever. So then I was a bit more shaken out of my nerves afterwards. So, but yeah.
Wow. So being on a national level like that, do you look at the music industry in an entirely different light, or is it more along the lines of like, this is what I've always done my entire life? But at the same time, like having all those cameras and production crew around, it definitely had to like change your mindset, your mind scheme around the entire industry, right?
It completely did. I think it really was a boot camp, just in learning the industry, learning how tough things are, but also just you had to keep reminding yourself like this is a television show. You
Yeah.
know, everyone that runs the show, the production team, they're wonderful people, and they're literally fat. Like I talk to them every single week still. Like we all keep in touch, and but they have a show to make. They have ratings to make. I think what was like really unsettling, what was like weird to me was in Hollywood Week, where the cameras were just shoved in your face the whole time, and like I was like just breaking down, and like like I was just so like I remember my phone hadn't been working, and I finally had a minute to call my manager and talk to him because like he's one of my best friends as well. So and I was just kind of had this moment to talk to him, and I thought I had like a private minute alone, and then I'm walking talking to him, and I see a boom mic underneath me, and they're following me trying to hear the conversation and get footage of me like which was like that was really unnerving, and kind of just way more anxiety provoking. But like you can't blame them. Like Hollywood Week is when they get all the reality stuff of the show out. Like that's when all the reality TV part comes out. All the rest of it is just music. And yeah, I think yeah.
So, and kind of fast forwarding like a few weeks there, you guys are competing. You're in Hawaii. Like, what was that all like? Getting to play in front of your family, packed crowds, with the judges. Kind of like that's like when it's like, okay, it's go time. This is like make or break for me.
That was, I mean, that's when everyone really became a family. All the contestants, and we'd been rehearsing every single day with the vocal coaches. I think something that didn't really do me, that was kind of a mistake on my behalf, is I changed the song last minute that I was gonna do.
Yeah.
I was originally gonna do "Falling" by Harry Styles, and then Francisco Francisco and I had chosen the same song. We'd both chosen "Falling," and I decided, I felt comfortable doing "Mercy." I didn't really want to. We were going to have to do a hat pick, which I didn't really want to do. So I just kind of said, Francisco, you can have "Falling." So I do kind of regret not kind of seeing if I could have done "Falling" as well. But then I was going to do "Mercy," and then my other backup was "Castle on the Hill," which I wasn't really that sure of. But then the executive producers told me that when we were doing our executive run-throughs, a few days before the performance, they said that they liked "Castle on the Hill." Like their ears really perked up. But that wasn't really what I'd been practicing that much.
Right.
So because their ears really perked up for that, I was like, oh, like I'm gonna do "Castle on the Hill." But like I think that I should have kind of stuck to my original. I think you always, in those situations, you need to kind of stick to what your original plan was. Because I think that may have been a bit better, because I think Hawaii was one of my lesser performances. But I mean, it was incredible playing with the band, playing on the stage, playing in front of all those people was a dream come true. It was like, I'm just praying till when COVID's over, I can do something like that again, because that was just such a surreal, incredible experience. Is really an understatement.
Yeah. And like you just said, you just got back from tour, and I'll wrap this up soon. Again, I don't want to take too much of your
Oh no, you're fine. Totally.
But like for you, everything that you've done, like you even mentioned, like you're working on new stuff right now. You mentioned being inspired by Ed Sheeran. Obviously, you sang "Castle on the Hill" last minute there. Who's one guy that you'd like to collab with? Like whether it's a track, an entire EP. Like who's the one person that you'd be like, okay, like I think like we gel and our tunes would mix.
That is so. I feel like I want to say Lewis Capaldi.
Okay.
I feel like I want to say, just because he's such musically, like I love his songwriting. It really kind of, it just speaks to me a lot. And I think I mean, he just had a #1 hit, like with "Someone You Loved." I think it clearly speaks to everyone, and that kind of emotion that he brings out in his voice is something that I really try to do as well with my writing and with my voice. And I think also he's just such a funny guy. Like if you, I'm not sure if you've ever seen his Instagram, but like he just is absurdly funny.
Yeah.
And I really just want to hang out with him, get a pint with him in the UK, of course. I'm still underage in America, but I just want to hang out with him. Like, so hopefully we'll be mates at some point.
Wow, and that's crazy. What are you, 20 years old?
I'm
19?
20. Yeah.
20? Okay, you're almost there.
Almost there. You're 21.
I'm 21.
Oh wow, sick.
You're doing a lot more than I'm doing from
I don't know about that. Yeah, I don't know about that. You're doing great though.
So far, so good.
Awesome.
The last thing I want to leave you with, everything that you're doing, again, kicking ass. Like, I mean, it's incredible what you were able to do, being able to pull off what you just did. touring the States, given everything that's been going on, being able to share your music, being able to meet people, tell stories, learn from them. What's your next step? Because like you've mentioned, you're working on some new stuff, working on new artwork for some of your stuff. What's your end game right now? Like, what's your biggest goal moving forward?
My biggest goal is to headline at Glastonbury in England, or like obviously, or like play at I really want to start playing festivals. I mean, a dream would be to play Madison Square Garden or Wembley Stadium. The goals at the moment, I think we're really focused on just keep growing my audience, and we're planning to be releasing songs every kind of 6-ish weeks, to try to just keep kind of getting as much music out there as we can during this time of when we can't really play proper shows.
Yeah.
Just trying to do that as much as I can, and we're starting to talk to labels, which is something that I'm kind of hoping to kind of sign to a label at some point soon. But we kind of want it to be more not on our terms necessarily, but a good contract. So I'm like totally we're just kind of waiting for the right, we're not waiting, but we're trying to figure out the right way to go with that, just because so
I mean, yeah, you want to be happy at the end of the day. Like you want to
exactly
be in a good relationship with your label.
Exactly. So we're kind of just talking to some at the moment, and we'll see what happens. But for now, I'm just kind of independent and self-funding, self-releasing through my distribution company, Symphonic, who are amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're just kind of trying to get it done, try to get my music out to as many people.
So in putting out all that content, writing all this new material, like when you first started, so like before you even wrote Change or like one of your big hits that you had, how long did it take you to write a song and say, this is good? Because I'm sure like starting out, you probably wrote a ton of material and like no one's ever going to hear it because either you didn't think it was good or someone listened to it and be like, yeah, you probably shouldn't share that with people. Like how long did it take you to actually like write a song and be like, okay, finally we got something cooking here?
Well, literally, I mean, it was so funny because today and yesterday I've been clearing out my mum's. I've moved down to my parents' basement apartment, which I'm kind of renting from them, and so I've been clearing out my original bedroom upstairs, and I just came across all of my I had like a tiny little notepad which I wrote my first lyrics on when I was 7 years old.
Wow.
And like all these pages of writing that I've just like all the songs I've written throughout the years. I think the first song that I wrote that I liked was called Playing Pretend. There were a few. I've released an EP called I just released an EP when I was a sophomore or junior in high school, I think, which is taken down now and no one's ever gonna hear. But I sang in an American accent because I thought that was what you were supposed to do. If you listen to a lot of English singers,
Yeah.
like One Direction, Harry Styles, and kind of a lot of English singers, even the Beatles,
Right.
it's like would sing with American accent. So I thought that was what I was supposed to do. And I have all these I think one song, and I was about a freshman in high school when I wrote my first song, my first EP, really, like my first batch of songs that I at the time I thought were good and I really liked them. Looking back at them now, they suck.
Right.
But like we've all got to start somewhere, and I think that was a part of my growth, and yeah, like that's the journey. And I still write songs that I think I write like lines and verses and things that I think are just garbage and I hate them, and I'm like, this is never going to see the light of day. And I think for writing, for me, a lot is really just the process of you're gonna write what stuff you hate, and you're just kind of, you keep digging and digging, and I get frustrated, and it's almost like I'm like banging my head against the piano trying to get something that I like, something that feels wholesome to me. And then eventually, if you just keep trying to dig through all the shit, part of my language, eventually there's a moment where you write something and you're like, oh my goodness, like this made me feel something, like this has got so much, like it just inspires you. And then that's kind of what ended up happening with a lot of my songs. They ended up being written in like 45 minutes after weeks and days and months of writing stuff that I hate. Like Change, I wrote in 45 minutes. I tried to write about kind of losing Russell, like the loss of Russell. I tried to write about that so many times. And I just I hated everything I wrote about it. It didn't feel right. It wasn't the right way that I wanted to say it, and to kind of tell his story and the message. And but then one day I woke up one morning and I listened. I was in bed watching a Sam Fender song, because Sam Fender wrote a song called Dead Boys, which was about all of the a lot of boys in his local hometown had been kind of committing suicide, and basically he wrote a song about that, and I watched his a live performance of him singing that one morning. I got up early and watched that, and then I just got so inspired. I went downstairs to my piano, and Change just was written in like, for the most part, in like 45 minutes to an hour. So it's really weird how those things happen, and just truly the best feeling in the world when that does happen.
I mean, that's amazing to hear, because like you said, like inspiration, it's hard to find, but like, as you said, like moments like that, feelings that you have, and it like all culminates into something. And like you said, 45 minutes it took you. Like, there's a lot of those stories out there, because I know I'm a big rock guy, so I know Chris Cornell wrote Black Hole Sun with Soundgarden in like 40 minutes. He was like driving home at 4 a.m, and he was just like humming it to himself, and then wrote it down. And that's like his song.
He's amazing. He was amazing, and I had the I mean, it's just crazy how that happens. I actually had the opportunity. His daughter, Lily, is doing an amazing podcast at the moment on Instagram. About mental health, and it was so incredible to be able to join her, and we had a conversation kind of about my career and just the importance of mental health, especially right now. So that's funny you mentioned Chris.
Oh, that's so you were actually on her show and talked about it recently?
Yeah, we did it. She's lovely, and I mean, she's so young. I mean, I say she's so young, but she's my age. She's like our age. But like, it's so inspiring to see people as young as we are, you know, really kind of doing something positive in the world. And I think, I mean, she's incredible for kind of taking her story with her dad and her own struggles and stuff, and kind of putting that out. But yeah, we did that a few, I think maybe 2 months ago.
Wow.
Now,
Wow. So, and again, like, I mean, she's doing her thing, you're doing your thing. I mean, it's really incredible to see, man. And
thank you.
I wish you the best of luck. And again, I won't take too much of your time here.
You're fine.
Work out, rest your voice.
Thank you, Jack.
Do what you got to do. Thanks so much for taking time out of your day to talk to me. Hope you're staying safe, because again, it's crazy.
You too.
Now, man.
You too. Where are you at the moment?
I am in Phoenix, Arizona, so the weather is
nice.
Top notch. I'm originally from the Morristown, New Jersey area, so about like 2 north of you.
That's awesome. So what brought you out to Phoenix?
The weather. Honestly, I could not do the winters anymore, honestly. So like when I know out for school, I'm like, I have to go, because something like the weather. I wanted to experience a completely different setting, you know, because West Coast way different.
Nice. Yeah.
So
completely. That's awesome. Yeah. That was one of the that we were actually going to try to do on the tour, but we had to cut it out. But hopefully we'll get. I've really wanted to go to Phoenix, so that's awesome.
It's a blast. I'll come out and see you.
Well, Dude, absolutely. Even if it's just you in a Walmart parking lot, I'm down.
I'll be there. I'll bring my buddies. We'll have a good time.
Literally, that's like what all the shows were. So it was sick.
I mean, that's not.
Fantastic, dude. Yeah. Thank you for taking the time. Yeah. I mean, thanks for taking the time. And if you ever want to do that, yeah, that'd be awesome.
Oh, sweet, man. I'll definitely reach out.
Absolutely, dude.
All right, man.
Cool.
Enjoy it.
All right. Appreciate it, dude. Good luck with everything. Stay safe.
Do your thing, buddy.
Cheers, brother. You too.